Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this latest edition of the History of the Solar Universe. If you're new to the series, there is a playlist listed down below in the description, and as always, I hope that you enjoy. Human terms of phrase. The lecturer looked at the class, mostly diplomats to be, a few officers' children, and noble sons and daughters. There were a few cameras and recording devices. This sort of lecture was useful for anyone who was working with humans. The lecturer, a Scythian of some repute, but not significant enough to be notable to the Federation. The lecturer started with a picture of a human midway through what looked like a suicidal jump off a cliff. The phrase, "why not?" was emblazoned above it. Humans are very unique in their language, where a two-word phrase can mean several different things. Further to that, it's quite easy to exchange one word in that phrase to several others and retain the same intent. Yet, one word and suddenly the entire phrase can be used to mean another set of things. The slide behind him changed, and this time it showed a set of phrases. This is the first phrase we will be going over, generally referred to as the blanket set. These can be anything from copulated to detonated. Below the title are some examples. This can mean a few things. Generally, if aimed at an object, this can mean, "I do not care, I will ignore it," or "I'm about to disregard all recommendations and attempt something." The latter usually precedes an event that the Federation has termed a human incident. The lecture class collectively winced or grinned. They'd all heard the term before. The term had been coined by another lecturer after a human had said the phrase, "Well, let's try it," before the entire physics lab was erased from space-time, only to return 3 weeks later. It had been submitted as part of an incident report, incident type human. Generally, the human incident in question involves direct disregard for significant impediment or extreme risk. However, this phrase should not be confused with a very similar phrase, where the "it" is exchanged for "you." Again, the slide changed, and this time the phrase at the top was different. These are considered the blank "you" phrases. These are generally insults or denials of your statement. Depending the circumstances, this precedes everything from the human attempting to injure you if you have aggravated them enough, or the human storming off. In some circumstances, the human is denying your denial of his actions and will proceed to take said course of actions irregardless of your protests. The latter uses once again result in a human incident. It is important to note, however, this phrase can also be used in jest or in congeniality with friends. The lecturer waved at the screen. The lecture screen changed again, this time to what was clearly a confrontation between a tricle and a human, both intoxicated on some kind of chemical. The human was likely alcohol. The tricle could have been any number of substances. Words were exchanged, and eventually the human yelled at the tricle, "Thank you, buddy, and thank whatever crap spawned you," before storming off out the door. As you can see, the phrase was used in an aggressive, threatening manner, but the human still left. When a human uses the blank "you" phrases, you will have to use a series of context clues as well as your knowledge on that specific human to gauge what his next course of action would be. The slide changed again. This time, it was a human midway through charging a rather angry-looking monstrosity from their homeworld. The phrase, "want to bet," was written under it. One of the more famed human phrases, "want to bet," is used to indicate that you or another has stated that the human cannot or is incapable of doing something, but the human believes it is possible and has taken your disbelief as an insult. This generally results in the human attempting that very thing that you stated they were not capable of. This always precedes a human incident. An example is as follows. From the incident report of Everfree 2. The lecturer picked up the datapad and started reading. Situation report, Planet Everfree 2. There has been a disruption in the interstellar communications due to an incident involving a human ship's officer, several Kursk and a tricle officer. According to witness testimonies, the human ship officer was drinking, claiming that the local communication net was so worthless that he could take it apart with nothing more than a pair of pliers and wire clippers. An altercation started between the human and the Kursk. Eventually, the altercation was broken up by the tricle, who was an officer within the local communication network. After hearing something about this, he told the human that it was impossible. The human's response was, "Want a bet? Give me 10 minutes in any of the communications rooms, supplies and wire clippers, and it'll all go to pot." The officer, being somewhat inebriated at the time, allowed this, but did not tell the human that the communication room was disabled at the time. Despite this, the human has made some modifications to the global communications net that means that any visual communication displays the sender without any clothes or garments whatsoever. The lecturer stopped and looked at the class. If a human ever asks you if you would like a bet, the safest response is to decline. The class looked at each other, certain that while it was the safest, it might not be the most amusing. Humans' turn of phrases are also used to create shorthand phrases or descriptions of processes. For instance, it is well known that humans will choose to give close associates shorthand names that are either descriptive or a play of that person's name or attributes. Now, I will not be going over these things to keep things short, as every species and creature has at least one. The lecturer paused and shuffled her notes. Now, there are several dozen other phrases that the humans use. I'll be covering one more, and the incident that introduced it to the Federation. Your short-term coursework is to produce a docket containing no less than 5 human phrases and their common meanings and uses. Extra credit is available for attaching incident reports involving the phrases. The lecturer moved on to a new slide, reading "Die now or later." This phrase has several variations and can even take the form of several others, but it is oft delivered in such a tone as to make its intent clear. It has 2 forms. The first is simply a human taking a highly risky decision for little more than a glory or joy. The second, however, is more important. I will now play the incident report to indicate why. The lecturer pressed the button on the controls and let the recording play. From the speakers, a shaky voice came, clearly rattled and unsure what to say. "This is the translation unavailable captain of the transport Akistars, reporting the dead." The voice was cut off by someone yelling in the background. "He isn't dead, he's MIA." The voice was clearly human and heavy with emotion. The captain made a rattling noise that indicated him as a tricle. "Reporting that our engineer Alexander Eklar is MIA after repairing an external shielding system. The following recording is the last known interaction between Engineer Eklar and the crew." There was a click, followed by the sound of static hiss that was common from security recordings. "So what you're saying is that we're flying at half-C in the dust cloud and our shielding is busted," a gruff human voice said. The captain responded, "That's the gist of it." A human voice cut in, the one that had interrupted the captain from earlier. "Can we call for a rescue ship?" There was a pause. "Too far. We'd be scrapped by the time it arrived," a fourth voice responded. "Sorry, I got us into this mess. I did say that we needed a new nav comp." Clearly this voice was the navigator. "Well, I guess someone has to go out and fix it," the gruff human asked. There was a chorus of affirmative noises. Well, I guess I should suit up," the human said. The affirmative noises turned to once a shock and horror. "You'd not lost 10 minutes, the navigator protested. "It's suicide," the captain almost shouted. "By now or later, someone has to do it, and I'm the engineer," the gruff human said, and the sound of heavy tools being shifted could be heard. "You sure, Annex?" the other human asked, his voice quiet. "Yeah." Any intelligent creature could hear a waver in the engineer's voice. He wasn't sure. "Just do me a favor and look after Moxie, and no matter how much she begs, don't give her a dairy. The vet said that it gives her the runs." There was a dry, humorless laugh from both humans. "I will. Good luck." "See you in 10, shouldn't take long." The sound of an airlock opening, and then the static hiss ended, indicating the security recording had finished. The captain's voice returned. "It has now been 40 of the human minutes. 25 minutes ago, our shields came back online. It has been decided by myself and the 3 remaining heads of department that we shall wait 5 more of the human minutes before resuming course." The recording ended, and the class looked at one another. There had been stories of humans being suicidal to save close friends and their pets, especially their pets. There had even been a narrow miss with an all-out war over one specific cat. But this was above and beyond. No sane creature would commit such a suicidal act just so there might be a chance that his companions getting out of such a situation. The lecturer resumed talking. "Humans are capable of conveying a lot of information and intent in very few words. Learning what these words mean and how they are used is very important with dealing with humans in diplomatic and social settings." Class dismissed. End of story. There will be a compilation of this video on the main channel if you're interested, and I hope you enjoyed. There'll be a new one on Monday. Anyways, cheers. I'd quickly like to thank the T5 peeps: Cold War Boomerwaffen, Sevaren Serberous, Bushmaster 177, Henry the Red, Casper Arnholtz, Cold War Boomerwaffen, Elijah Silvercross, Dragzoon W.R.E, and Sevaren Serberous. Thank you very much.